Welcome to this important day for these new officers. I'd like to thank friends and family for being here in celebration, and I'd like to thank RPD personnel who are here in support, and thanks to all our city administration and council members and other jurisdictions for being here. So thank you all. These officers are here today. They endured 32 weeks of training. They were challenged and pushed to earn their badges while displaying grit, determination, and commitment. They then expanded their skills and techniques in successful field training. The journey from recruit to officer is an epic one. And now let's hear what it was like as we welcome to the microphone the 130th Class President, Officer Cameron Ainsworth, to sum up the class and their training experience.
Morning, everyone. When we first walked through these doors before the academy began, we were eager, perhaps unsure of what we were about to get into. But as the months went on, we learned, adapted, and became a team. We've shared in triumphs and setbacks, supported one another through the most demanding days, and celebrated our victories until the very end. We've learned not only the skills required to do the job, but also the values that are essential for our roles as guardians of the community. We've learned what it means to lead with integrity, to act with honor, and to serve with humility. Today, we don't just leave here as individuals with new skills, but as those entrusted with the safety and well-being of the citizens we serve. We are entrusted with the responsibility of making tough decisions, sometimes in the face of danger, always with the knowledge that our actions will have lasting effects on those we serve. It is a weight that we carry with pride and one that we will carry together for the rest of our career. Now I would like to say thank you. Thank you to the magnanimous Academy staff for giving us the foundation that we will build our careers on. Thank you to the FTOs that protected us and helped us put the puzzle pieces together for the last 2 months. Thank you to all of the friends and family that have supported the members of this class throughout this very long process. And thank you to all of those who will continue to support us as we become new officers. But most importantly, I need to thank and congratulate my fellow members of the 130. I am forever grateful for all of your hard work. This may be the end of the academy, but it is the beginning of our careers. We are standing on the threshold of something greater than any one of us. The work we'll do as police officers is not easy, but it is meaningful. The differences we make, the lives we touch, and the justice we uphold will echo through this community for years to come. Lastly, I want you to remember that there is always something left to learn, and I urge you to seek new knowledge, training, and experience whenever the opportunity arises. Congratulations, 130.
Good morning, everyone. So I am Al Wiggins, the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for the city, standing in for Chief Donald. I really want to just thank the 130th graduating class as the newest member of our law enforcement community. This is a moment that's very special for me to share with you because about 24 years ago I did the same thing. I was a recent graduate from the police academy and I was just ready to go out and solve the world's problems. A great profession, great memories that have lasted with me for a lifetime. Even to this day, some of the skills that I've learned in the police academy helps me with my job as a city administrator. So I just want you to know that it's not a job. This is a career. It's a calling also. It comes with an enormous amount of responsibility, and there must be a commitment to integrity, accountability, and just a love for your community. As a city manager, the one thing that you must have in your city is to be able to control crime and grime. And you'll be a critical part of that. Without keeping your city clean, keeping your city safe, you don't have a safe group of citizens that are that's really proud of their community. I also want to acknowledge the families here. You're the backbone behind them being able to do what they do. I know you are very worried when they leave until they come back home each day. I will tell you that they are supported by a great police chief, command staff that comes with years of experience. I've been in local government for about 24 years, and I've worked in several municipalities, and I can't tell you that I've been more impressed with a police department more than the Richmond Police Department. So, again, in closing, I do want to bring greetings, also from the mayor's office. Thank you for your service. I look forward to working with you to improve our community. Thank you for all that you do.
You've heard a little bit about what the Academy consisted of. Now let's take a look at what's become a tradition at RPD graduations, a video documenting the recruit experience that provides a small sampling of what they did to get here today. This video was produced by our own RPD Public Affairs Unit.
Run! I tried to forget that day on purpose. Welcome aboard.
What are you forgetting? What's in your hand?
It was on 1,000. From the moment we got to the academy, I was second guessing myself, like, what is going on? What am I doing? There are people screaming, I'm running, I can't breathe, I don't know what's going on. It was definitely coordinated chaos.
Run! Let's go, run!
Yelling and screaming got us inside.
EWOC was fun. I never knew I could drive a car that fast. I hit a couple cones. Brakes were too hot.
It was one of the better times in the academy. It was fun.
OC, that was the worst one for me. OC hurts.
Yep, there it is.
I knew it was gonna burn, but I'd say the hardest part for me was the initial opening your eyes, because once you get past that and you breathe and calm down, you can work through it.
It was god-awful, the worst thing. I mean, it brings out the wimp in me.
Come on, guys, breathe! Let's keep going! Come on, we're almost out!
I feel my eyes watering right now.
Psychological! Keep it together! Solid breath!
It was terrible. It hurt, despair, bad, tears. It was not good.
Alright, now you're on the rest as well, sir.
Patrol tactics was fun, good practice, very eye-opening to see, how easy it is to miss something or to miss a small detail, a small word that someone says.
That was a blast too, being able to again learn throughout the academy how to police, and then getting able to put everything that we've learned together, take action with certain scenarios was really fun.
With your right hand, put your hand out the window.
The biggest eye-opener throughout the academy was patrol tactics, because that's the point when you put it all together. You don't know much, but you piece everything that you learned throughout the academy and try to figure out what the real issue is, if there is an issue, and how to properly go about it.
Transition was like, used teamwork, everybody came together. It was stressful, but I think everybody did their part.
Burpees! Right!
It was a very long night. It was cold. We were out in the woods. It was like a haunted forest. It was like a Halloween haunted forest. You didn't know who or what was going to pop out of the woods. It was a very long night.
Just want to make a difference, want to help people, want to be a positive impact to as many lives as I can.
It's really nice, being out there and being able to show that, again, we want to work with the community.
We came together great. This is 130th is basically like my first team here, so that's always 130 will always be that team together, no matter what.
Put your hands out the window.
We've come such a long way from the beginning. We definitely have a better camaraderie now. We have come a very, very a long way.
We're kind of like a big family. We mesh really well, even though we're different. We found out how alike we really are.
We were able to work together and show the instructors that, we're not individuals anymore, that we're able to work as a unit.
It is a really big sense of security and encouragement that we have that support as new officers going into the field.
And now to assist me in presenting the awards to the class Training Academy officers, Hall and McTurnan, and Chief, if you could step in the center too, please. All right. The Physical Fitness Award. The Physical Fitness Award is presented to the recruit who had the highest average on all of the physical fitness tests given throughout the recruit training. The recipient of the Physical Fitness Award is Officer John Collins. All right, the Emergency Vehicle Operations Award, otherwise known as the EVOC Award. The EVOC Award is presented to the recruit who displayed outstanding judgment and control while operating a vehicle. The recruits were tested on a variety of driving courses to include a quick reaction course, skid control, emergency response, and day and night pursuit driving. So the 130th, the top driver, is Officer Brendan Murphy. Caveat to this, Officer Murphy, if you get into an accident in your first year, we rescind the award. Just kidding, I'm just kidding. One of my favorite awards is the Jerry Kiefer Firearms Award. This award is given to the recruit who obtains the highest average score on all of the department and DCJS firearms qualification courses. This officer demonstrated a high level of proficiency and safety with the department-issued handgun and shotgun. The recipient of the Firearms Award is Officer John Collins. Thank you. The Captain Vernon F. Mike Hall Award. This award is named in memory of Captain Hall for his contributions to the police training. This award is given to the recruit that maintained the highest academic average throughout their recruit training career here. The recipient of the Captain Vernon Mike Hall Award is Officer Cameron Ainsworth. Thank you. The Nancy White Thomas Award. This award is in honor of Mrs. Nancy White Thomas for her inspiration and contributions to recruit training for over 42 years. Ms. Thompson passed away in 2007. However, she remains a very special friend to the Richmond police family and has been an inspiration to every basic recruit class since 1966. This award recognizes the recruit who has demonstrated the most outstanding overall performance throughout recruit training. The recipient of the Nancy White Thomas Award is Officer John Collins. And we're going to need a U-Haul for him at the end of this. All right, and the last award, this is my top favorite, is the J.D. Ross Servant Leadership Award. Servant leadership is defined as a philosophy and set of practices that enrich the lives of individuals, builds better organizations, and ultimately create a more just and caring world. The award is named in honor of retired RPD Sergeant James Ross, otherwise known as JD. It is awarded to the recruit in each graduating class that best exemplifies the core traits of a true servant leader. JD exemplifies the philosophy of servant leadership every day in that his actions were always focused on the betterment of his personnel and this organization. Some of the core traits possessed by any good leader are accountability, selflessness, humility, dependability, and respect for others. Today's recipient has consistently demonstrated these core traits over the past 34 weeks as witnessed by the members of the 130th Basic Recruit Class. Therefore, it is my honor and privilege to present the J.D. Ross Servant Leadership Award to Officer Cameron Ainsworth. And if you haven't guessed, that's the infamous Sergeant J.D. Ross. Thank you, J.D. Thank you. The officers were sworn in on August 21st here at the Academy. This was a private ceremony, as we recognize there is still more work to be done. Once a recruit takes the oath to serve, their journey has only begun. They must then complete 8 weeks of intensive and eye-opening field training, where lessons learned over 32 weeks at the Academy are put into real practice. Field training is divided into 2 4-week phases, each guided by a field training officers. Trainees must rotate through different precincts or shifts, forcing them to adapt quickly to new environments while facing the daily challenges of the job. Those first few weeks are often the toughest. Long hours, high stress, and the realization of what real-world policing demands. It's during that time that many understand why the Academy cadre pushed them so hard. Throughout field training, these new officers respond to everything from shootings and traffic crashes to community events and citizen calls for help. Each experience strengthens their confidence and their commitment to serve with integrity and courage. Only after completing this demanding process are they officially certified as police officers for the City of Richmond within the Commonwealth of Virginia. And now, with great pride, we move to one of the most meaningful moments in an officer's career, the presentation of badges. Chief, can you stand back up again? We're keeping you busy, sir. The badge is more than a piece of metal. It's a symbol of trust, honor, and responsibility. It is not given, it is earned. And today, these officers have earned theirs. Behind every officer standing here is someone who believes in them, a parent, a partner, sibling, friend, or steadfast supporter. Your encouragement and sacrifice have helped them make this day possible. And as a tribute to that support, each officer will now be joined by a loved one to take part in the proud tradition of pinning their badge. The officers will be presented in alphabetical order, so if those loving and supportive family and friends wish to snap a photo of the officer with Chief Edwards, come on down to the front of the stage when the officer is called. This is a very carefree environment, so please make sure you come up. You're not disturbing anything. We want everyone to come take pictures, but also note we will have pictures available too for the families. But it's a celebration of their accomplishments, so we'll feel free to use the backdrop as well that we have that's outside after the event too. So we kind of have you guys all set up. All right, officers, as I call your name, please make your way up. Officer Cameron Ainsworth. Officer Brendan Bellingham. In there and pose. Thank you. Officer John Collins. Officer Noah Davis. Come on, get up there. DC is really good at taking photos. He can. Oh. Officer Connor Fogarty. Officer John Juga. So I got to share this story. When he was applying to take the test for a recruit, I said, "What? Where's your name from?" He says, "It's Italian, like my Uncle Frank." I said, "Oh, that's wonderful to know. Thank you." Officer Brendan Murphy. Officer LaChris Roberts. Ladies, why don't you get in that picture? No? You get in? All right, afterwards. Okay. Officer Jonathan Chisler. Officer Christopher Severio. Officer Addison Cervelay. and Officer Cindy Zuleta. Congratulations. Congratulations to the officers of the 130th. So today's the day, guys. Move forward, remember what you've learned, and continue to remember what and who you represent. I would like to invite Chief Rick Edwards to give his charge to the class.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna have to move this a little. So I'd like to welcome everyone to the Richmond Police Department's Training Academy. I know it's been a long journey, particularly to the family and friends of those who are sitting up here today. So I'd like to have everyone who's a family member, friend, or if you're here for one of these new officers, please stand up and be recognized. Come on. Yeah. Look at this crowd. Thank you so much. Because I'll be honest with you. You can sit down now. I'll be honest with you. We can't do our jobs without that support at home. So you being here and showing support early in their careers will make all the difference. I'd also like to thank Captain Flippo for that wonderful rendition of our national anthem. Please give her another round of applause. That was great face. And the entire Richmond Police Training Academy staff. Please give them a round of applause. They did an excellent job preparing these young men and women for what they're going to face on the streets in our city. So we're here today to celebrate these 12 new officers who have joined the 130th to protect our city and work to make our city better. Back in January, we met in this room. And it's the same room that I was in 26 years ago. And you saw some of the chaos where people are running around screaming. I promise you the Richmond Police Department's not full of sadists. We do it for a purpose. We're preparing you for your next phase of your career. And as I said to you then, I don't expect perfection. I expect improvement, even if it's 1% every day. Because you're not competing with the officer next to you, you're competing with yourself from yesterday. And every time that I've come back to the academy, you've improved. And I was just so impressed by that. And if you remember, there's 3 times I came to the academy to teach you something. The first 2 were kind of things that were designed to prepare you for the rigors of policing. And I talked to you about, I'm a former homicide detective, so I talked about trained you on the ability to take dying declarations from people. Now what that is it's an exception to the hearsay rule, where if an officer responds to a scene and a person is suffering mortal wounds, we have to train the officers to say to that person, it looks to me like you're dying, tell me who did it. And unfortunately, if they pass away, we're able to testify that. You're normally not able to testify to hearsay, but that's an exemption for it. So I talked to you about one of the cases I had in homicide where officers had to do that very difficult work. I also came and talked to you about critical incidents and officer-involved shootings. And throughout your training, we've done things like that. We've done things to harden your hearts. We've asked you to put on tourniquets on bloody wounds. We've trained you to step over bodies to go to neutralize a threat in an active shooter. We've taught you how to fight through the OC and the gas and the tasers to be able to do this important work and to harden yourself to do that work, because I'm going to talk about some of the stories these new officers have been through, even in their 8 weeks of field training, and some of them have had to already do that kind of work. But I also mandated something else for our academy, and I came one more time, and that was to make sure that you saw the new the documentary called Herd: Surviving and Thriving in an American Housing Project. That's a documentary that takes place in our city. A few years ago, filmmakers came to Richmond, and they followed the stories of 6 individuals in 6 of our public housing communities. And some of these individuals were involved in crime, some of them were just living in poverty, some had made some poor choices in their lives, but what it did, and why I wanted you to see that, was it shows the common humanity that we all have. No matter what your tax bracket is, no matter what your zip code is, it shows the value that everyone has. So I wanted you to see that, to soften your heart in that very different way. Because the goal is to prepare you for the work you're going to face in this city. And I think we were able to accomplish that. So now I'm going to kind of talk about you and brag about you somewhat. And we're going to tell some of the stories, but just so everyone in this room understands, the Richmond Police Department is obsessed with crime data. We're obsessed with looking at the numbers, we're obsessed with hearing the crime, so we know where it's going to be, so how we can disrupt it. So when I sat down and thought about it, like we have so many meetings to talk about crime. One of them is a Monday meeting where we talk about the weekend's crime. The other one is a captain's meeting where we talk the full week. Then every week we meet about each of the 4 precincts to talk about the month's crime. We also have monthly crime meetings with our federal and state and other local jurisdictions partners. So we hear these stories. I hear these stories in our noteworthies and looking at body camera and hearing about the crime. And sometimes, I've heard some of their names in those meetings, some of the work they've already done. Some of the situations are a little less dramatic, but they're all important. So I'm gonna kind of talk about it. But when I asked the Academy to tell me some of the stories I was unaware of, so they sent me back a list, and it said, "Dispatches from the 130th, a compilation of compelling tales of heroism, heartbreak, and abject terror." And that's, I don't know who wrote it like that. I think it was Sergeant Milton. But I was like, what are these stories going to be about? So get ready. So I'm going to go in alphabetical order. Like I said, some are crazy, some are more unusual, and some are funny. But Officer Ainsworth, his field training officer remarked that he was very interested in practicing proactive policing. Cameron and his FTO identified a male at a hotel with out-of-state warrants. He searched him. The individual was aggressive. They took him into custody without using force. Even was able to take him to the hospital because he complained of some injury. And he remarked that this experience reinforced my desire to work in a supportive professional department and make a difference in people's lives. And then Officer Brendan Bellingham. This is a case that I did hear about. So Officer Bellingham was the first on the scene of a stabbing. Brendan applied a tourniquet before the EMS could arrive, and he continued to advocate for that victim in subsequent cases. And this, again, reinforced his commitment to community policing and protecting our city. And he has been nominated for the Life Saving Award with the Richmond Police Department. John Collins, we heard John Collins' name a lot today. He got a lot of the hardware. But he remarked one of his first arrests revealed a shoplifting call, and God knows we have enough shoplifting in Richmond. That's one of our main crimes, but he was able to turn that shoplifting arrest into identifying the person that had multiple felony warrants, also had drugs on him, and he saw the practice that you saw in those videos of training, how you put that into actual practice, how you take the lessons he learned at this academy and made it and made it into the reality of what it's like to be a police officer in the city. He also talked about a case he had that was a domestic, and we have domestics every day. But he said there was an elderly mother and a middle-aged daughter, and the mother called the police because the daughter failed to make a grilled cheese sandwich. And he responded, and to which he said, quote, "I say that all the calls for service matter, and it's a duty for our officers, no matter how cheesy." So, good job with that. So Noah Davis, again, is another one of those cases that was highlighted in one of our meetings that I heard about. Noah responded with his field training officer to a very violent domestic. A woman had been cut by her boyfriend with a knife. And when they responded to the scene, they saw a 3-month-old baby covered in blood, and they feared the worst. And when they examined the baby, they realized she wasn't cut herself. It was her mother's blood, but they were certainly concerned. But Officer Davis was able to, with his field training officer, to locate that suspect, take him into custody, and realized really how important the job we get to do is. And he said, quote, being able to put such an evil person in jail makes me extremely grateful God gave me the opportunity to have a career in law enforcement. And Officer John Juga, in field training, now this is one of the cases that I think some people miss out on. They don't understand what this job truly is, because there will be crazy situations, but there's also little moments of kindness that you can find throughout this work, and police officers that do it notice it every day. So when he was asked to talk about some of the cases he was involved in, he talked about 2 times where he was able to deal with a stranded motorist, push their car out of the road, talk to them, calm them down, and understand the true reality that this job enables us to interact with people at their worst days and just make it a little better. So he remarked that. And Connor Fogarty had a domestic call where, and I've never heard of this as a weapon used, but where a mother threw a tree at her daughter. I'm assuming it's like a bonsai tree or something, but threw a tree at her daughter, had to make an arrest and deal with that. And it was an eye-opening experience in the sense that you learn that people get into these crazy situations, and it's important for us to respond rapidly and de-escalate those situations, and yes, sometimes make an arrest before a simple assault turns into an aggravated assault, and before an aggravated assault turns into a murder. So he was remarking on that case. And Brendan Murphy. So Brendan had an interesting situation too that I had heard about. So Brendan was responding after picking up a TDO, ECO, transporting that person to a hospital, and as he was driving, he heard the sound of gunfire. And he heard shots ring out, and he observed a male limping on Mosby, and they get out and approach that individual. As they approach him, a gun falls off of him. Now, he's the gunshot wound victim, but he had a gun on him too, so he was able to ensure that that gun was secured. He was able to put a tourniquet on this individual too, who had been shot in the leg, and direct other officers to where the actual shooter was. And in a chaotic situation, was able to keep his head and provide first aid to that individual, so he was able to get to a higher level of care at one of our hospitals and was able to survive. And he too is being nominated for a life-saving award. So LaChris Roberts. So this is another interesting story that I think often gets overlooked. So LaChris and his field training officer responded to a person who was jumped by a group of young men. And he started that investigation as a patrol officer, made an arrest of one of the perpetrators, but took some of that information, did his own investigation, was able to identify additional people involved. And when he met back with the victim in that case days and weeks later to show them the lineup, he really changed that person's idea of what they thought the police actually do. That person remarked that he didn't really care much for the police department, didn't think we cared, didn't think we would try to help him solve that problem, but through Officer Roberts taking the time to fully investigate it and get justice for that person, it changed their perspective. And he got to see how important it is that what we do cannot be accomplished without trust from all members of our community. So that individual said that, and I think that might not be as TV-like when you think of police work, but that is reality of what we really do every day. That's a big part of it. All right, and Officer Christopher Siviero. All right, this is another weird one. You wrote this, so I don't want to get in trouble for what I'm saying. But anyway, they're arresting a young lady or they're taking her into custody for an ECO. So we deal with folks in mental health crisis pretty often in the Richmond Police Department, and sometimes it's on their worst day, and they will say anything they've got to say to you. And they will be as rude as they want to be to us, and it's incumbent upon us to be professional during these encounters. So You know, she was yelling at them, making a scene. She stared at him and called him what?
Peanut butter.
Okay, so I don't know, why did they call you? Okay, so she started calling him peanut butter. And then unfortunately for peanut butter, as he's walking out, he was kicked in the groin by this lady. So, but they were able to handle that in a professional way. And I'm just telling you now, you're going to be peanut butter 25 years from now at your retirement party. We're all going to call you that in roll call, but no, and remain professional, even that encounter. Not just the verbal abuse, not just the taunting, but even being kicked in the groin and remaining professional to do his job. And Addison Shrivele. So Addison, one of the things he talked about was the challenging dynamics of this work, going back and forth from hot to cold. He remarked that he was in a roll call with his shift. Everyone was laughing and joking, and the first call out of the chute he goes to is a DOA, so a dead person call, and all the drama that comes with a sudden death of anyone. And then going directly to a call for a domestic assist. Now this is a call we go on often where there's no assault, but the officers are called there to try to mediate so that we avoid that. He remarked how he had to negotiate that different type of emotion while dealing with a family who wanted another family member to leave the house, and he was able to do that while all the time remembering the last call he was on, which dealt with the death of a person, and that was really profound to him. And I think that's something that resilience that he learned in that day is something that every Richmond Police Department has to know, how to transition and remain professional throughout your day. So Jonathan Schisler. So I mentioned before, theft is always a challenging issue for us. So they responded to a call they'd been to many times throughout field training where a person had shoplifted. This case, an individual shoplifted 2 cases of Heineken and walked off. And Jonathan and his field training officer, after they took the report, started circulating the area and looking around, and it was interesting because he saw a guy actually walking with 2 green boxes and thought, hey, that's a clue, and stopped him and was able to determine it was the Heineken in question. He was able to take those boxes of beer back to the store and actually recruit the loss and arrest a very well-known thief in our neighborhoods. And I'll tell you that the violent crimes get most of our attention in law enforcement, but it's the smaller crimes that affect many more Richmonders, and it's just as important to be professional and do your best on those calls as it is with all the others. All right, Cindy Zuleta. So I've been summarizing these, but I'm gonna have to just read this one. Cindy, I don't know if you were an English major, if you're a novelist in college, but I'm just gonna have to read it. So, because it reads like a Stephen King novel. One evening, I was dispatched to a call for a suspicious situation. The upstairs tenant reported a strong foul odor coming from the downstairs unit and described it as, quote, something dead. When I arrived, the smell was immediately apparent. The air around the door smelled like a mix of hot garbage and despair. I knocked on, all right, you see what I mean? I knocked on the door several times with no response and peered through the windows but saw no movement inside. The upstairs tenants cracked the door and gave me further details. She said a heavily pregnant woman lived there and hadn't seen her or her kids, all 5 of them, since at least July. My brain immediately went into overdrive. This is it, I thought, my first scarring DOA, probably worse, many multiple DOAs, a crime scene, a homicide, a murder, suicide, major crimes detectives, the works. I called for a supervisor and fired to make entry. The supervisor walked up, rubbing Vicks vapor rub under his nose and offered me some. And for those of you that don't know, that helps with the stink. So it offered some, but the field training officer denied that and said, I need you to fully experience this moment. Again, I promise you we're not sadists at the Richmond Police Department. So the fire department pried open the windows, and I could not have looked less tactical going through that window. It was dark, hot, and humid, and that smell My flashlight sent roaches scattering in every direction. Clothes, shoes, random junk carpeted every inch of the place. My heart was pounding as I cleared room after room, holding my breath each time I opened the door and turned the corner. The smell intensified as I moved deeper inside. Empty bedrooms, empty bathrooms, empty hallways, nothing. Then we reached the last closet door. I held my breath as I opened the door, and nothing. No bodies, no crime scene, just confusion. We re-cleared the house more thoroughly, and we were less on edge. Finally, I identified the true source of that smell. On the kitchen was a swollen plastic bag that had once contained frozen chicken. That bag had inflated so much it looked like it could explode at any second. The counter still had flour on it, and a frying pan sat on the stove. It appeared the tenant had been preparing dinner and left unexpectedly, leaving the chicken to decompose in peace. I smelled like death for the rest of my shift, but at least it wasn't human. Not a DOA I was expecting, but one I'll never forget. Now those are some really incredible stories. And I think you've already gotten to see what I'm talking about, but this job is truly about people. It's not about the car chases or the gunfights or the Code 1 responses, although that being said, this is still Richmond and you will have your moments. And you have to be ready for those moments, no doubt. But what we're mainly doing is interacting with people. I don't care what anyone tells you, we are in the people business. So 49% of the time when you're out on a call, I want you thinking about the technical proficiency needed to what you have to do on that call. You know, are you able to respond rapidly but in a safe manner? Do you take a well-written report? Do you log in the evidence properly? Do you prepare for good testimony in court and before the magistrate? Those are the technical things that you're going to have to master in this job. But 51% of the time, what I really want you doing is thinking about how you made that complainant feel. Because that may have been your 10th call of the day, but it's likely the first time that person has ever called the police, or at least called the police in years, and they will remember you. That might be their first contact with our agency. I can't tell you how many times throughout my career someone has walked up to me and remembered me from my time in patrol in 2nd Precinct. They've come up and they'll say things to me like, oh, I remember you from back then. And you can ask any veteran officer in here. Richmond's a capital city, we have a lot of challenges, but it's relatively small and people will know you. And I would encourage you to try to be remembered for a good thing. In 2000 or 2001, I was a new officer and I was selected that day to work at DPR, the differential police response, meaning you're taking reports over the phone, and I really hated that job. But it's basically you're taking reports over the phone, you're at the front desk, and I was sitting there, and all of a sudden this lady comes barreling in, and she's clutching her chest, and she's breathing very heavily, so I was concerned about her. And she says, my heart is racing. So I immediately get on the radio and I call for an ambulance for her. She said, look, I have a heart condition. I have these palpitations periodically. And my sergeant comes out as we're getting through that. He heard it over the radio. And the ambulance comes and they're checking on her and they say, all right, well, we're gonna have to take her to the hospital to get an echocardiogram. They're gonna have to look at her more closely. And she said, I can't go to the hospital. Someone has to pick my son up at daycare. And she said, well, we can call CPS. My sergeant was like, well, can we call CPS to watch your son? And she said, no, my mother can watch him, but she doesn't drive. And my sergeant at the time says, well, don't worry, ma'am. This officer is going to go pick your son up and take him there. And I was like, you know, I'm a police officer. I'm not daycare. I'm not like a 911 nanny. But he was the boss, so I got in my car and I went over to 3rd Precinct, picked this little boy up. He was about 6 years old, put him in my car and drove him to Southwood. And as we were driving, you know, he just hopped in the car with me because apparently this had happened to him before. He knew his mother had these spells. And he's talking to me and I'm talking to him. He's telling me about his life. I'm talking about my life. He mentions that he loves football. He mentioned the Dallas Cowboys, which, you know, He's a little kid, so I didn't make fun of him. Sorry, Ronnie. But he was talking about how much he loved the Cowboys. I'm a Steelers fan. And as we pull up to his grandmother's house, I remember that I had some toys in my trunk. We would keep toys for kids. And I remember there was a football in there. So I got the football out and I gave it to him. And he said, hey, can you throw it with me? I thought, okay. So I took 10 or 15 minutes, threw the football with him, dropped him off with Grandma, went on about my day, and never thought about that again. I never thought about that interaction because that kind of thing happens to Richmond police officers often. These little moments where you get to connect with a member of the community. And it meant very little to me, but years later, over a decade later, I'm at a crime scene in that same neighborhood. And a very different young man who's grown up walks up to me and he said the phrase that you will hear throughout your career. Do you remember me? And I said, no. And he said, you're the officer. And I guess I stand out a little bit. I'm bald, I'm 6'8", you know. But he remembered me, so he said, you're the officer that picked me up when my mother was having those spells. And he said, I always appreciated that. And I had totally forgotten about that until the moment he mentioned that. And I will share that with you. We talk about the incredible stories, the adventure of a lifetime being a Richmond cop, but that part of this is literally the best part of this wonderful job. And finally, that brings me to the uniform you're wearing today. So the first thing I want to point out is that name tag you got. That name tag says your name. The next thing I want to talk about is the patch on your shoulder, and it says Police Richmond, Virginia. And that's our city's name. And the third thing on your uniform that I want to talk about is your badge. And I don't care what the badge says, but what it truly represents is bigger than you. It's bigger than this city. It's the profession of policing. And it's a heavy weight at times. Every action you take in this uniform has the ability to build trust with our community, to tarnish trust, or destroy it. And we lose trust in buckets in this profession, and we build it back in thimbles. So feel the weight of that badge. Remember, every decision that you make in that uniform has the ability to impact every police officer in this country, and govern yourself accordingly. So I just want to say congratulations. I'm so proud of all of you. God bless you and keep you safe. One more round of applause for our new officers. Thank you.
Now, the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics.
Clap. Attention. Code of Ethics. As a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve mankind, to safeguard lives and property, to protect the innocent against deception, to the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect the constitutional rights of all men to liberty, equality, and justice. I will keep my private life unsullied as an example to all. May For all